Hey everyone, my name is Ryan Present alongside my partner, Audrey Shirley. We are here to cover why gas prices have been rising exponentially in the current moment. This graphic for average gas price in Indiana shows this trend. Gas has gone up 10 cents since literally yesterday and is up 45 cents per gallon in the past week and over $1 per gallon since the average a year ago in Indiana. However, this is not only happening in just Indiana, but the entire U.S. as well. This graph by Gas Buddy in 2022 illustrates the change in average cost of gas per gallon in the U.S. over the past 2 years. As you can see from this graph, there has been a steady increase in gas prices ever since the end of 2020. This chart helps to establish a trend, but the more important information is to why this is happening, which is what we will be covering in the following slides. Here we have some questions that we will answer throughout this presentation. We already covered a bit on how oil prices change over time, but we will go into more detail. We will then answer what factors have caused oil prices to increase. After that, we will look at specifically how the U.S. has influenced oil prices. Then, finally, we will cover the impact gas prices could have on U.S. energy resources. Although I provided a brief overview of changes in gas prices over time earlier, I wanted to get more into detail with more stats. The graph on the right shows the average price per gallon from every year dating back to the 1990s. You can see a general upwards trend with spikes at 2008 and 2012. However, this graph only covers up to 2021 and doesn't include 2022. So far in 2022, the average gas price across the nation is $3.60, which is nearly equivalent to the greatest gas price we've ever seen in 2022, which was $3.62, only 2 cents short, and will likely pass this with time. The graph on the bottom left shows the gas prices per day during the past few years. One thing to notice is there is a decline and a dip during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Then, a little bit later, when things start to open back up, you can see a steady increase every day up until the present day. We will get more into the effects of the pandemic on gas prices later on in the presentation, but it's interesting to note in terms of general gas price changes over time that during the beginning of the COVID pandemic, prices dropped to $1.87 and now they're above $3.70. Next, the final statistic I found is specific for Indiana, going back to the Indiana prices I showed you in the beginning of the presentation. The highest recorded price in Indiana in their history was $4.25 for unleaded regular gas in 2011. Currently, as of March 4th, 2022, the Indiana gas price average is at $3.82, 10 cents more than yesterday. If this rate continues, Indiana prices will hit an all-time maximum within a week of today. While you are all viewing this presentation, I would likely guess that the gas prices are even higher than they are right now based on these trends, and could even be at an all-time maximum. Now that we have all the information about the change in gas price over time, we can finally get into the reasons as to why this is happening.
Due to Russia invading Ukraine recently, according to Dominaski 2022, since Russia is one of the world's largest producers of oil and natural gas, an invasion can prevent natural gas from being exported. As Dominaski 2022 explains, a potential result from this includes that Europe may not have access to its natural gas like before, since the gas pipes travel through Ukraine. In addition, Dominaski 2022 discusses the possible impacts of recent sanctions made regarding regions in Ukraine. Financial sanctions have the ability to lower the supply of oil and gas, which would only worsen the prices by making them even higher. Another major factor affecting gas prices was the COVID-19 pandemic. When this pandemic first hit, there was an excess in crude oil coupled with the fact that everyone was staying home and therefore didn't need gas. The price of gas started to fall and hit a relative low. However, this dip in price didn't last very long. As the pandemic has been moderated, more and more people are back to driving as well as traveling, so the demand for gas is much higher now, driving up prices. The beginning of the pandemic also caused a surplus in supply, causing the storage capacity of crude oil to be strained, which also caused negative pricing per barrel of crude oil, according to BAJPA 2022. Once the demand for oil began to rise later in the pandemic, this then caused the price per barrel to rise once again. This caused the current price of a barrel of oil to rise to about over $100 per barrel as of February 24, 2022, according to BAJPA 2022. Speaking of demand, the supply and demand for gas also plays a big role in affecting prices, as seen from the effects of the pandemic. When the demand for gas is high, they can raise the price, and when the demand is low, the price is lowered. Also, the supply and demand of crude oil are relatively inelastic, according to BAJPA 2022. This means that consumers' buying habits will stay about the same as before, regardless of whether or not prices rise or fall, according to Kenton 2020. We will talk more about the supply effects on prices in the following slide. Shale oil has been increasingly more available for collection compared to the past in the United States due to the advancements in technology such as hydraulic fracturing. According to Shen 2021, hydraulic fracturing is a process that extracts oil from shales and deep sedimentary rock formations by using liquid to apply pressure on the rock to fracture it. With the advancement in this kind of technology, the U.S. has been able to export more crude oil than previously. According to BAJPA 2022, this has been making the U.S. a net exporter of crude oil. The wider availability of crude oil has created even more demand than before. However, the U.S. has not been producing as much oil today due to the increase in demand. This is making the prices of oil much higher. OPEC, which is the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, was not allowing the U.S. or India to increase oil production for a while now. However, as of today, 400,000 more barrels of oil can be produced per day as of this past December as a response to President Joe Biden's request. Currently, there is a pause in increased oil production from other world leaders in fear of another rise in the pandemic outbreak, according to Keir's 2021. So in the meantime, Biden has ordered 50 out of the 600 million barrels of oil from the Underground Strategic Petroleum Reserve for use in the U.S. to try to lower the price of gas, according to Wink and Sabelos Roig 2021. Another major event in which the United States has not been able to produce as much oil includes Hurricane Ida. Hurricane Ida caused some of the oil drilling capacity sites to shut down due to the damage caused by the hurricane.
Now that we have seen the reasons why gas prices have been increasing, it is important to look at the impact on energy use. After all, this class is about energy and society, so this is very relevant and necessary. With the prices of oil being super high and on trend to continue to grow, the world, and specifically the U.S., is going to need to transition away from fossil fuels with how costly it has and will become. An article by The Atlantic in 2022 states, if an oil-induced recession is coming, then only rapid adoption of renewables, zero-carbon electricity, and electrified transportation can shield the economy. The way for the United States to gain a free hand both economically and internationally is to kick its fossil fuel habit as fast as it can. This illustrates a potential U.S. push for everyone to quickly transition to things like electric cars in the near future to avoid these extreme gas prices. While to some, this increase in gas price may seem like a temporary inconvenience, this rise in price could actually have a dramatic shift on how the U.S. prioritizes its energy and production and use for years to come.
In conclusion, we have analyzed some of the graphs and charts associated with rising gas and oil prices in the United States. We also looked at some of the factors that are affecting these high gas prices and how the U.S. has impacted these oil prices. Last but not least, we discussed how energy resources and energy production may be affected due to the increase in prices. Here are the references that we used in order to research this topic and present this information. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation.